And we're live. Good to be back.
We're live.
So, let's talk about this morning's group text with the family,
Oh, yeah.
which was, do you work and find something that you're passionate about? Or do you work to survive and spend time with the things that you're passionate about? Family, etc. What are your thoughts?
Well, it was interesting. I looked at my phone and there's 16 texts. The family back and forth. And not only that, this morning when we went to visit Marjan, uh, we broke off. You started talking to his friend, and I started talking to him, and him and I landed on the same, more or less same topic, because um, you definitely must be passionate to a certain extent to what you're doing every day, day in and day out, in what people call a job, because in order to take it to the highest possible heights, you got to be passionate and a little crazy. I think Steve Jobs said you have to be insane in order to do it, because if you're not, you will never do it, because it's crazy to work 18, 19, 21 hours a day, killing yourself for something that you're not passionate, or it's not something that it's inside your blood,
Yeah.
for. So the other side of the coin was that, people get a job because it's a way of making money and surviving and feeding
So,
your family.
to give context, it came about because we went to City Hall,
Uh-huh.
which is a municipality, right?
Uh-huh.
It's a
Yeah.
run by the city, and they were closed, and their dates were closed from um up until January 2nd.
Third. They're closed from December 26th to January 3rd.
Correct. And so
And how
we
do I get
couldn't,
my business done?
yeah, we couldn't get the business done that we went for this morning. And so you sent a group text to the family, and then there were a lot of opinions thrown out.
Right.
Some from the family saying, well, we need vacation. We should do it like Europe, where they're closed for I don't know how many, And so those were the different opinions. And then, I was saying, well, when you're passionate about something, you're working every day. And to be fair, there were excellent points brought up, I think,
Sure.
in that group chat in terms of why it's important to also have vacation, right? Uh, because that's important too, because, we're in a culture here where it's work, 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 and less vacation, less fun, family time, and things like that. So that's why it came up. So that's the context of it. And, I threw out there that I think if you're passionate about what you do for work, then you want to do it all the time. Um, and I believe here, in some places,
Here in
in the-
America, in the U.S.
not only in the U.S., but I'm going to speak from what I know, which is Southern California.
Okay.
Uh, in the big cities, you have to work to survive, and there's less passion for what you do. So you're looking for an escape from what you do many times. And so if you can get days off, as many as possible, sick days, if you can get vacation days, maternity, paternity leave, whatever, anything to get away from what you're doing, um, it creates that culture here, because you're not doing something that you really are passionate about. That's my thought, and I might be wrong on that, but that's the way that I look at it. Because, like, we went to go visit my buddy, he's there at his office working. Now you could say, well, that's because some people might call it greed, because they're just working all the time and they just want to make a ton of money. Well, what about if they enjoy what they're doing? And it's not necessarily for the money, it's because they actually enjoy what they're doing for work. And that's where
Yeah,
it
but if
came
the
up.
money wasn't there, Do you really think that he would be there, or us, for that matter? I mean, you love
I
it. You love what you do so much that you're willing to do it, whether you get paid for it or not.
Right, and I think those are the people that get paid for it the most. Now, you can
Wait, but the
romanticize it.
question is, do you think that would you do it if the money wasn't there?
I think that yes, certain things. I think that like if you are passionate about playing the piano
Okay.
or an instrument or learning about history or different things you like, no one's paying for you to do it. Yet you spend how many hours a day on doing those things because you're passionate about it and you enjoy it. If you can
But
somehow
I can only do it because you're making money somewhere else.
So if you can somehow link the passion and get paid for the passion,
Okay.
that's the I think that's the magic cheat code in life.
Okay.
Is it easy to do? No.
No. I
But is
would
it
venture to.
possible?
Yeah, it's possible, but I would venture to say most people don't have that um, opportunity, let's say. You know, I know that I listen a lot to Jordan Peterson, and he says, well, look, if you are miserable in your job and you don't do something about it, something to be able to get out of that rut somehow, 10 years from now, you're going to be even more miserable doing the same job, and it's going to be even worse. So you could potentially live your life like that. So what he's saying is, look, it's what did he call it? It's 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 a luxury. I don't want to misquote the guy.
He's saying that it's a requirement to fulfill your purpose in life,
Your purpose
and
in
it's a
life.
luxury to be happy.
It's a luxury to be happy. Yeah, and if happiness comes along with it, well, then you've got gravy on.
Right.
Yeah,
That's what I
that's what
mean. Not
he's.
exactly quoted, but
Right,
that's
right,
pretty
right,
much that's what he's getting to. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Look at the people that are counting the days to retirement, counting the years to retirement. So they're not enjoying what they're doing. They're not passionate about what they do. Now, I don't want to generalize, but there are people that are counting the days till when they leave that job and can finally retire and, let's say, enjoy life,
Yeah.
right?
Well, your friend that we went to see this morning, he comes up with a good point because he says, "Look, I'm not married. I don't have any kids at the moment. So I can devote a lot of time and a lot of whatever capital I make into it,
Reinvest.
the business. And so, in that sense, I'm way ahead of a lot of other people. Now, he's still very young, very, very young.
Yeah.
And he's an exception to the rule. He started his business. He told me this morning he got his DBA at the age of 18, which is amazing.
Yeah.
It's, but these are entrepreneurial spirits, I think, from the crib.
I
Okay,
think
so
also they learn it, so their parents or
some,
somebody's someone in the family, an uncle, something happened there
which is another thing we talked about because apparently it's cultural to a certain extent, you know?
for them.
Yeah.
I mean, you could
And,
say the same thing about the Cuban culture.
and
A
or the
lot of them
Chinese,
are entrepreneurial. Chinese culture,
yeah,
sure,
they're very entrepreneurial.
right.
Yeah. So, um,
At least here in America, right? I mean, we don't. I
well,
don't know
wherever you get
outside.
a chance, look. But for example, yesterday we went to a park similar to Disneyland, but much, much lower scale, not that big. And the people that were working the rides and so forth, they weren't passionate about what they were doing. They
Okay.
weren't. They're just carrying along, doing whatever they had to do. I mean, there's an old saying in Spanish, the translation loses a lot, but kind of like asking, the right leg permission to move the left leg in front, and then the left leg permission to move the right leg. I mean, it's
It's
just
kind
like,
of dreadful.
yeah, they were dragging, and I saw it all over the place yesterday. There were some that were really high energy, but they were far and few in between.
Right.
Out of maybe 20 rides that I saw, two of them or three of them were really into it. Um, So, having that energy day in and out is, I think, up to the individual. Okay? So, I mean, what do you do if you don't try to improve yourself somehow or acquire other skills, okay, through reading, learning, YouTube, whatever the case may be? If you don't like your job and you're doing that job day in and day out and you're miserable, man, that's a horrible existence. But
So
some people have to do it for the money, for
for
survival, to
survival,
put food on the table for kids, for
correct.
themselves, to
So
pay the
then,
rent.
so is it unrealistic to say that you need to start there, but once you have a base where you're able to, you should one should search for something that they are passionate about and see if they can make that leap or jump at whatever age it is,
I don't
or is
think
that
it.
not realistic, from your opinion?
I don't think it's. I don't think it's unrealistic to say that, because if you don't improve yourself, you'll be stuck there forever. If you feel you're stuck, so you gotta. But it takes commitment, discipline, energy. You have to.
So maybe that's a more difficult path,
It is a more
and
difficult path.
maybe, and I'm not
It's
gonna.
easy to flip burgers. Well, somebody that's flipping burgers might say, no, it's not that easy.
Yeah, I don't want to generalize
Yeah, I
it,
don't either.
but I think it's a more difficult path if you're trying to find something that you're passionate about and get paid for it and be able to survive on that. I
Well,
think that's more difficult initially than a job that you trade time for
for
money.
money. Yeah, no, everybody's trading in some way or another time for money. Um, for sure, it's much more difficult. If you find your calling, you know, that may not be, it's the whole theory about, starving artists. You spend a lot of time, you're really good, you do tremendous amount of artwork, but you're not making any money. Musicians, there's a lot of them, a
Yeah,
lot of them.
and I think that I wonder why those are so common, like the phrase "starving artist." So yes, it's common. Let's say that occurs, but is it also that maybe we're we're trying, one is trying to dissuade one from pursuing their passion because it may take longer for them to make money on it, and so it's gonna say, oh, a starving artist is, and so, you're, but what about all the people that did or have been able to? Because I think of Sarah Blakely, she invented Spanx, and the commitment that she put into the business initially, and she did everything to make it happen. She was, initially she was selling, I think, like, not typewriters, but it was like copy machines or something. She was door to door, and then she saw this issue for women, and so she said, "I need to put all my time and energy in this, and I want to create something with Spanx." But initially, there was no money involved, and finally, she got her first big deal, which was with, I believe, Neiman Marcus, I think it was.
Hmm.
But up until there, you're a starving artist. But then what about the people that do make it? Why don't we bring those up? That, hey, they were able to find both, because it's a lot harder to do that, because she had to struggle a lot and not make any money those years and give up her salary and hire, and sleepless nights and all that. It's a harder path,
Oh, sure.
but it it's a possible path.
Well, some people don't even know what they want to do. Like when you're young and you're in high school, or maybe the first 2 years of college, maybe you don't really know what you want to do in life.
Yeah.
And then again, I was talking to our friend this morning, and I believe he told me that he has a degree in civil engineering. His business is different than what he's doing, but he's met a lot of engineers that are doing other things than their own engineering um, degree, to work on. They got a degree in something, and they're working in something else. It depends, where life leads you, the experiences that you live, and what opportunities you take advantage of. Because if an opportunity comes knocking at your door and you don't realize that, you don't see it, and it goes by you. Same with me. The degree I have wasn't in business, so I'm doing something totally different. Now, in my case, I did it because I, I needed to make money. I was forced to get a job, and I got married, and uh, my first son came, and so I needed to make money, so I got a job to make money. I was fortunate that from there, I I kept studying at night. I learned the trade very, very well, learned the art of selling, and because I was able to, let's say, succeed to a certain level, it allowed me to have my own business. And then with my own business came some headaches, but a lot of rewards. And so it's a trading, it's a balancing act.
Right.
You know
But
what I
you
mean?
weren't, yes, you fell into it because of necessity, but you enjoyed what you did and you were passionate about what you did and are passionate about it. It's not like you were going to work waiting for the clock to hit.
Oh, no, no, no.
And see, that's the thing. You stumbled upon something that you became passionate about. You're passionate about your business.
Initially, I wasn't.
Correct.
Because if you go back to insurance, you had rating books that were this thick with rating charts and this and that, and every time you quoted something, whether it was home, auto, whatever, you had to pull all those books out and this and that. So in a certain sense, business has gone a little bit easier in that aspect, but it's so heavily regulated that it's hard nowadays to
Yes,
do anything.
but I
You
would
really
say,
have to be.
but I would say your passion is actually people.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
passion is
I love talking to
relationships and people,
Yes.
and that's what you did very, very well to grow that business. That's it.
That's
Your
it.
passion is people, I think, and you stumbled on something that
That
allowed
allowed me
you
to do that.
to right, because you always liked business. You even said that as a kid you wanted to go business, and your family pushed you a different route.
Correct.
So you fell back into business, which was something you were passionate about since you were a kid. Now, you had that dream as a kid. You're saying most kids don't know what they don't have dreams, or don't have a passion. And we were listening to a podcast earlier that I was playing for you, Dame Dash, that he was saying he asked his son, "What are you passionate about? Or what are your dreams?" And he doesn't have any right now. So he's trying to instill in him, because in school you're not. It's not a practice to dream, and find a passion. It's not something that is taught.
It's up to the individual. You know what? This reminds me a little bit The Godfather 3. I think it's Godfather 3, where the son comes up to Al Pacino and says, "Hey, I want to be a singer." And he says, "You want to be a singer, but why don't you, well, there aren't that many singers that do well." And he goes, "Well, that's what I want to be, Dad." And he says, "Well, why don't you get your law degree first? Why don't you, do you remember that part?
Vaguely.
Get your law degree. You need to get your law degree because, we need lawyers in the family business, and, a lawyer will always have a job and make money, And he says, "No, I'm not going to get a law degree. I'm going to go into singing." And he becomes an opera singer.
Mm.
And I think that evening there was a party at the house, and he sings for everybody,
yeah.
and he's got a real nice voice and all this.
Yeah.
But Pacino wasn't too thrilled about it, He says, "Hey, why don't you get a law degree?" So you can, as a father or as a parent, derail a dream. If you're not, if the young man or the young woman is not totally set on, yeah, it's up to the individual. Who knows, man? It's up to the individual.
Well,
You got to figure out your own path.
We know some people that have done this, where they graduate, they give the diploma to the parent, and they say, "I am now going to do what I want to do."
Right.
So we know personally, but also there's a famous story about that. I'm trying to think who it was I was listening to, that they said they graduated, they gave the degree to the mom and said, "Mom, the degree was for you. Now," I think it was a comedian. I don't remember who it was right now. But they gave the degree to the mom and said, "This was for you. Now I'm going to go do what I love." And the mom said, "No, no, no, you can't, this and that." And she said, and I think they came to an agreement of like, you have a year or a couple years or something to do that. I know Kevin Hart did it. Was it Kevin Hart? Where he had an agreement with his mom, and she gave him like a year to get to take off in comedy, and he promised her, okay, a year. And because I think it was Kevin Hart. But anyways, it's a common story. But see,
Well,
that's somebody who didn't let their dreams get derailed.
right. Well, you need a strong character for that.
Right.
Because, for example, um, there's this gentleman that he does financial news, and he has his own podcast and stuff like that. And he's from India, okay? And he comes up and says a lot of times, if you're from India, in an Indian household, you're either a doctor, an attorney, or an engineer. And if you're not any one of those three, you're a failure. You got to be a doctor, a lawyer or an engineer. If you're not one of those three, in an Indian household,
Wow.
you're a failure.
That's the culture.
That's the culture. So now you need somebody that's strong enough to go against cultural ways. Okay?
Correct. Yeah.
And how many of those are there? Because in that culture also, you're taught to listen to your mom and dad, obey your mom and dad, or else if you're disobedient, you're not a good kid. You're not a good boy, you're not a good girl. So, there's a lot to be said about stuff like that. And he says it too. He became an attorney, and now he's a real estate investor. And he's at his own podcast, and he's quite famous actually. And I follow him. He's cool. And he said, "Oh, I became an attorney. I'm an attorney, but I'm a real estate investor." So what's given him the freedom to do what he likes? It's been real estate investment and opening this podcast. And in this podcast, he's got a bunch of followers. He just recently came to California, and then he jumped over to New York, and then I forget. I think he lives in Delaware. But anyway, he, generates a tremendous amount of income, and he's an attorney. He's a non-practicing attorney, but he has the degree.
So from your perspective, because his parents pushed him to become an attorney, right?
Correct.
And many cultures, that's what they do. Filipino culture, same thing.
Chinese, I would think also.
So from your perspective, as a parent and grandparent, do you think it's good to push your child to the point where they pursue a career and graduate in something that they're not passionate about? Because you think it's the best thing for them, and it may be, or maybe not.
No, I don't think you should push anyone into anything. Because if you push anyone into anything, you're gonna, isolate them from you. And, there could be resentment. And I don't think anyone should be pushed into anything. I think that the best thing to do is, as your child is growing up, you're going to see certain tendencies. They may be good at sports. They may be really, really fast. They may be good at music. They may want to sit down and play the guitar or the piano. Some of them may be really, really good in math. Some of them, so you're going to see the child have a tendency to be slightly
Lean
better.
towards something.
Huh?
Like lean towards something.
Lean towards something. And you can take advantage of that. For example, the World Cup was just finished, and everybody's talking about Messi. Well, I didn't know this before that the World Cup, but I started getting more into Messi, a lot more. And it turns out that his grandmother was a very, very influential force in his life. And his grandmother gave him a soccer ball when I think he was barely like less than 2 years old. And she took him to soccer games and she instilled that love of soccer in him. And so she saw something in him. He was little, but he was fast. Okay, he was very small, but he was very, very fast and very good with the ball. And so she instilled that in him,
Mm.
and sure enough, he's categorically the best, soccer player in the world. So you will see certain tendencies in your children, grandchildren, and if they are guided in that. But if they come out of the blue and want to change, I don't think you should force things because you're going to get resentment, and at that point in time you risk at not having a good relationship with your kid,
So
I
going back
think.
to the, I agree, and going back to the beginning where we said passion, can you do something that you're passionate about and make money at it? What I think his grandma did, without knowing the whole story, I haven't looked that much into it, but what sounds to me from your story is she introduced him to the game, let's say, saw something that he had special. He there
Nurtured it.
nurtured it, and he was extremely passionate about it. That's why he's been able to get to this level. So she was able to link the two together, passion and make money, and that man is doing what he's passionate about, or one of the things he's passionate about, and making money at it too. And he's one of the most famous people in the world.
Yes, of course. Nobody. There's a video that I saw last night on him, and it says, "Remember me, I'm Lionel Messi." And then this is when he was, I don't know, 12 or 11 years old or something like this. But now, fast forward, and the guy in the video says, "Don't worry, Messi. The world is always going to remember your name." Of course, now, So initially, he didn't do it for the money. He did it for the love of the game.
Right.
And I think that that is very genuine and a tremendous thing to do. However, if you find yourself in your 20s or in your late 20s or so, and you happen to be married and have a child, or another one on the way or whatever, you're a late bloomer, let's say, if that's can be said about something like that, um, it's more difficult because you have to put food on the table for the family. Okay, but the point that I think you and I both are trying to, set here in this podcast is, it's not impossible. It can be done. It's going to take more effort, more energy, more discipline, more commitment, okay, than if you are, have less responsibilities, like family, because you have to feed the kids, you have to put them in schools, you have to clothe them, you have to, and all that takes money.
Sure.
So you need to acquire skills that would allow you to move forward, hot, get another ranking, get a raise, whatever, whether in that same job you've got or outside of that job, somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
it's
more
a
difficult path.
it's a more difficult path.
But I think if more people in the world looked for something they were passionate about in life to also make money at it, my belief is that the world would be a happier place.
I agree.
People would be in line with what they actually like doing, and you'd have less people counting the days to retire because they're enjoying their work, and they're enjoying what they're
I
doing.
agree. But however, one point, you know, if we're focusing in on Southern California, like you said, or expand it a little bit to the United States of America, okay, the United States of America is a country that traditionally has offered opportunities to everyone. You're lucky if you're born in the United States of America. Okay, now I was not born in the United States of America. I'm lucky that I came to the United States, okay, and that I have been able to live a very good life, okay? If I had stayed in Cuba under a communist regime, I guarantee you that my life would not be the same. I would be controlled,
Guaranteed. Yeah.
guaranteed. So the reason I'm saying this is because Dan Pena says, hey, you know, you're the elite. You're super lucky to be born in the United States of America. The kid that's born in the U.S. as a kid to be born, and I forget what country he cites, but it's an underdeveloped country somewhere in this world, okay, which there are many, or they're going through wars or God forbid what, okay, a kid born in that country as opposed to a kid born here, okay, totally different worlds, totally different scenarios.
Of course.
People in other countries are not potentially thinking about retiring. They don't even know what retiring is because they're going to have to work every single day of their life 12, 15 hours a day to provide.
Correct.
So, you know, they just don't know what retirement is. There's no retirement horizon in their future. This is only in the developed countries like England, the US, parts of Europe, you
Right.
know.
Right.
Uh,
Oh, it's a. I mean, even to
it's
be
a
having that
luxury.
conversation is a privilege.
Oh, it's a
luxury.
luxury.
To be born with a social security number in
Oh,
the United States is a
oh,
right off the bat.
yeah.
You're ahead of so many people.
Oh, and we
So
were in Spain. We were refugees. We were not stuck in Spain because I have good memories of Spain, but we were in Spain waiting for our visa to be transactional so that we could come to the United States, right? And those were stressful times for my mom. I was
sure.
a kid, but it was stressful times for her. And you know, on the phone, trying to figure out what the consulate would need and this, and you need to go and get stamps and this and that and whatever. So, yeah, retirement, vacations, you know,
Yeah, I think the idea
what is it?
this yeah this
Yeah,
this conversation is for people that are born and are in a privileged situation where they can go to school or they can go to work and have these opportunities. Other parts of the world, like you're saying,
certain
are
parts of the
completely
world don't
different.
have it.
Yeah, you're not thinking about passion and this and that, what you're passionate about, and you're thinking survival.
Right.
So it's even to be thinking about those things is a privilege.
Oh
It's
no,
a
you get, you
it's an
know, I was in the Dominican Republic, and you know, the guy that was changing the motor oil in my motorcycle had a medical degree. I mean, there are people in many areas of the United States that cannot understand that concept. Maybe now we can because we're a more global um, world. But I remember 30 years ago or 28 years ago when I would say this story, people would not comprehend it. The guy that was changing my motor oil in my motorcycle in the Dominican Republic had a medical degree. Oh,
yeah, it's gonna be loud on the mic.
yeah, sorry. Had a medical degree,
Yeah,
you know? And so, you know, yeah, the retirement, what is it? You know?
yeah,
Vacations? What are vacations? You know?
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. I no, it's good to put that in perspective because we're talking about vacation days here, and
yeah,
we're talking about
I mean, I go to City Hall because I need to go to the planning department because I need to get things done in order to move forward with this particular property. And then there's a big old sign that says, hey guys, see you January 3rd. Well, January 3rd,
yeah,
it's only December 26th. All those days that I'm working, you know, um,
yeah.
gone.
You can't get it done.
I can't get a darn thing done.
Yeah,
No, but look, I think we could end with the idea that you're correct. If you find something that you're passionate about and that you love to do, and you nail it, you realize what it is, you devote your every energy into it, certainly you're gonna excel to the heights of the, Steve Jobs, the Messis of the world, and everybody that's number one, whether it be in swimming, playing piano, whatever it is, no doubt about it. That love and passion it'll be like a booster.
It'll be a force that nothing can get in the way, really.
Nothing.
So maybe sit down and explore the things that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And
That's why Robert Greene, I think Robert Greene had
Oh, jobs? He
Oh,
had. Oh, yeah.
like 90 jobs.
Yeah,
or
I think he said it was like
something
around
ridiculous.
100
Yeah,
jobs.
100 jobs. I mean, he's done construction, he's done,
Yeah.
you name
He couldn't
waiter.
find anything that he liked.
And he found it late in life, I think. Okay? Because somebody said, hey, if you write a book, I'll sponsor the writing of this book. And I think that, I hope I'm not mistaken on this, but I think he was in his either late 30s or early 40s. I think he was in his late 30s for sure.
Yeah, he couldn't hold the job.
He couldn't hold
But
the job.
that's
He didn't like anything.
it's
he got.
common for certain people. Like Rogan talks about it too. He hated working, for, somewhere, or he said he talks about being in an office. Like he's like, I don't know how people do it. I wouldn't be able to do it.
Well, this guy also, Mr. Wonderful, I think he was selling ice creams at one point. Selling ice cream. Nothing wrong with selling ice cream. He just didn't like it. And so he says, hey, I had to get out of there.
Yeah.
And so, anyway.
Cool. Well, we'll end with that, and let's pursue our passions.
Let's pursue our passion if we can. Let's find it.